Hello everybody, my name is a friend and today we finally got the answer about unofficial clients like RuneLite and OS Buddy, because I blame OS Buddy for this, what's gonna happen right now. Initially didn't seem that bad, but yeah, I think a lot of features could be gone from RuneLite. But this is the first post that they made and they said they're gonna be updating this in the future. So I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. We're gonna get back to the top a little bit later. So straight up they made examples of unacceptable features. Note that these are merely examples and not an exhaustive list, which by the way they said that they may make a list in the future too. So there's a few examples. All 4 of these were OS Buddy's enhanced killing. And they wanted to do even more, but they can't do that right now, because now it's bannable. Now the second one, it may seem like this is also just OS Buddies, but I think this applies to every client, including RuneLite. It says that it's unacceptable to interact with altars with fewer clicks than our client would allow. So they're talking about vanilla client. And on vanilla client, the first option is to bury the bone. It's not to use the bone. But on RuneLite, everyone's now got used to it so much you can just voice crack. You can just click on the bones very quickly that you can use them on altar every single game tick, and it seems that that is just not allowed anymore. But they did say that they're gonna continue to monitor community concerns about other specific features and offer more clarity if needed. So maybe next week there's gonna be a new post saying like, okay, RuneLite, that's fine. OS Buddy, that's not fine. Well, this one is also, I don't know if they mean, look, it's unacceptable to interact with construction hotspots and items with fewer clicks than our client would allow. Does that mean just for construction they mean? Or they mean all items? Is this like 2 things in one? And then they made with logs, so that's, I think that was the most obvious one. It was almost like one clicking dots, like fletching. It's not going to be allowed. But now there's 3 more, and I think some of them are available on RuneLite, so you can't use something that tells you where Vorkat's attacks might land. You cannot use a plugin which tells you where to stand to avoid Zalara's attacks and what protection prayers to activate. Now it seems it's fairly straightforward, but what about marking your own tiles? You know those yellow things that you can mark yourself? Like, what if I do that? I know they're like static and they don't change every time the Zalara pops out again. So, but this is, for me at least, it's not the biggest thing. These are just, you know, features that I think everybody thought were a little bit overpowered. Oh, and by the way, these are bannable offenses now. Now, I did make a video 2 days ago about me actually using them. It was okay. At the time, they didn't inform us, and I'm gonna play a clip right now. So just in case some of you also use them after I uploaded the video, because I don't want to be blamed for, like, you know, getting accounts banned. Hey, that was an educational video and I didn't like any of those features, and I said we should probably remove them.
If Jagex says that a certain feature is against the rules, but thousands of people have used it for months, why won't you ban them? How is it fair that they get to keep their advantage over players who do the content in future? I kind of alluded to it already with the kind of frustration and lack of action we've taken over the last 6 years. So while we understand the frustration, we think it would be unfair to apply that kind of sanction to players when the stance wasn't clear enough. And we do apologise for the lack of clarity, but I don't know, it kind of seems a bit of a repetition point here, but going forward, we will make sure the right action and the right communication is nice and open. What will you do to players who use these features that are mentioned in the blog? So like we said in the blog, we're taking time to assess how best to enforce the approach, but ultimately the use of unacceptable features will result in account bans. So short term and in the meantime, that's what we'll be doing. Longer term, we need to assess what's the best approach beyond banning. Question in a similar vein, what will you do to those developing and sharing clients which use these features? Again, we're taking time to assess the proper approach, and that's the correct legal approach. We'll communicate with an update once this has been decided. That update may not be made public and might just be specific and communicated specifically for those developing and sharing.
Now they're also talking about the future too, that they're saying, however, we don't want players to be left in constant fear of possible bans. So we'll give advance warning if any additional features are being considered for the list. So 2 things about this. Any plugin that's available right now in RuneLite, and they haven't talked about it, it's still kinda okay to use. They're gonna give warnings, I guess. They're gonna make some kind of list in the future. But this is not all. All of the features that I talked about, this was like a list. However, they made a little bit more talk up here. We consider features which enable you to bypass gameplay mechanics to be unacceptable, like those which might indicate where projectiles would land, where NPCs might spawn, or which protection prayers to activate. Now, I use this myself all the time. I loved it because there used to be a timer. You kill a blue dragon and it shows exactly what is going to spawn, and it shows like 15 seconds until next spawn. And I thought that was amazing. I mean, it doesn't really help anything, but I guess maybe with bosses, maybe there was some kind of problem eventually. I don't know, what about the projectiles? Is that really a big, maybe like PvP? Again, I never encountered this myself. Now, this last one I hate so much because I feel like everybody is using this on RuneLite, including myself, and I love the way it works. So let's see if I understood this correctly. The same can be said of features which might modify how you select actions in game or change how you click on menus, players, or NPCs, especially where the feature leads you to using fewer clicks than you would when using our client. That's right. So I think now it's very clear that the altar that wasn't here also applies to RuneLite. The first option should be bury, because it clearly says that especially if the feature leads you to using fewer clicks, you have to right click on the bone. You can't just keep spamming on the bone and using it on altar. You just can't do that. But this applies to so many things, like even says NPCs too. But this could mean like so many things. So it says how you click on NPCs. Does that mean I can't use the like highlight on NPC anymore? Or if the first option is trade option, because I think a lot of people have been used to this right now on RuneLite especially. If you go to Varrock, you can just trade with the guy. But now it seems you get banned for that. But it's such a small thing. Oh my god. This one is such a big one. Change how you click on menus. So there's a menu swapper in RuneLite, and there's just so many things. It may seem like they're so insignificant, but at the moment at least, I wouldn't be using any of them until we get what is allowed and what is not. Maybe trading as a first option on NPCs will be fine. But what about things like jewelry even? Like if you ever logged into vanilla client, the first option is to wear the ring. It's not to rub it. And I'm so used to having Amulet of Glory. You click once and then you select where you want to teleport instead of right clicking, clicking rub. So again, you can't use that, it seems.
In the blog, we mention more clarity if it's needed, quite a few times, actually. Where do we get it? At Jagex Support just sends links to the rules page. It doesn't mention clients. And your other staff don't reply or just direct us to Jagex Support. How do I know that what I'm doing won't get me banned? So our answer is, while our player-facing staff can't promise individual replies to everything sent to them on every topic, especially if it's outside their own field of knowledge, we'll issue updates to this statement for major points of confusion that arise. So keep an eye on the page. That's the third-party client statement page, which you'll find at !free_PC, and also follow at Old School RS for updates and at Jagex Support for updates. You talk about other clients, but don't mention your official client. What are the plans here? Why don't you update yours or partner with another unofficial client? Somewhat of a long answer here, so do forgive me. I know I'm talking a lot. Hopefully we'll get some more game-related questions, because at the moment I need to make sure I'm saying the right things. So in response to why don't we update our own client or partner with somebody else, we want to work with you to determine the right long-term solution. There was some impulsive action last year which the player base weren't happy with. So like I might as well be explicit with what I'm describing when we said we'd shut RuneLite down. So that was the impulsive action which you guys weren't happy with. We don't want to discount any options, being updating our own client or partnering with somebody else. There are lots of things to consider though. If we further develop our own client, how do we determine which features should be added? We've seen the issues that might arise if we just add to our own Java client and we know how, I don't say insecure, but we know that Java comes with other issues. So what if we were to take a longer term approach and work to introduce a C++ client? It means if we wanted to update our own client, you'd be waiting longer, but we wouldn't encounter the same issues we are now. If we partner with a client, then what do we do with other clients, particularly those which are forks from or derived from another client? So at a top level, it might look exactly the same. So those are the kind of considerations we're having. We don't have anything we can say right now.
Bye.